Hi guys, it's Kelly Lativola here and I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be using some supplies from Tonic Studios. This is the Celebrate Success and then the Celebrate Sentiments. Both of these sets are on sale, I think for 10 bucks over on the website. They'll be linked below if you're watching on YouTube. So the Celebrate Success one has like cute little critters and school things, but then it also has like a colored pencil and a paintbrush. So my whole card's based around this one paintbrush, which just goes to show you don't discard those little stamps. I just thought it was super cute and that I would be able to do like a rainbow background, which I have not done in a little bit, and that makes my heart happy, with some watercolor. So I'm just going to be stamping these. There were two I decided to overlap, so I'm going to go ahead and create a mask so that I can put one behind the other. But for the most part, they're just stamped randomly. It's going to look weird when we are doing the stamping, like there's a lot of space in between them. But the reason there's a lot of space in between them is because they're all going to have color. The paint that kind of bleeds out from behind each paintbrush. So I got to make sure I leave enough room for that. You'll have to excuse me my man voice this morning because it is early in the morning. It is about 7:30. I went to bed at, what time did I go to bed? 3:45, I think, last night. And the reason that I am up so early is to get my precious little peanut. We keep a weird schedule because I keep a weird schedule. So I take, when I work afternoon shift, when I work a later shift, his dad brings him to me in the morning hours, and so I get up early to see him, take him to school, and then come back and do my things. Today I'll be coming back and taking a nap, 100%. Just because I had a late night. I know that sounds crazy to other people, especially talking to like my crafting friends who have had regular jobs, which I don't, and I haven't since I was 20. And I would make comments about like working 16 hours or that, I worked until 4 in the morning. Like they would be like, what? That's crazy. But it's my normal. So I am using the Aqua Flow, the Nuvo Aqua Flow pens for my watercolor, and pretty much they come in packs of 3. I just pulled out some different packs that would have the colors I wanted in them to make my little rainbow. And then I'm going to just color the bristles of the paintbrush, and then I'm going to let them kind of bleed out. There is really no game plan here. I'm trying to be conscientious of how much I'm putting down. If you've never used these markers before, they come with a stopper in between. You see this little neon green stopper. You just unscrew the top of it, take out the stopper, and then put it back in. In order to get the marker started, you'll see here that it's clean white bristles. There's a little section on it that says press, and then you would just press that a couple of times to get the pigment flowing. I have a problem where I typically tend to put too much pressure on it because I get impatient. I don't want to wait for it. I would not recommend doing that. Just be patient, press on it slowly so that you get the pigment flowing and it doesn't overflow. But obviously I had never used that. I think that one's called tomato juice. It's the orange one. I had not used that one before because it was new to me. So then here, just, filling in the rest of them, I tried to be aware of where I was putting the colors, because you don't want to put like the red next to the teal, or I didn't really care about the yellow and the blue because they were going to make green, but like the pink next to the like a true green wouldn't work. I used this thing's pretty awesome actually. I used the light mist spray bottle from Nuvo, and you could see on there that it has a lock on it, which I really, really like, because for travel and things, then you don't have to worry about it leaking. And then I just sprayed from up above. I sprayed a couple of different times. I didn't get crazy with it because I really loved the way, like you can see, especially with the purple, the way that it was kind of breaking up the color because it wasn't completely saturated. And then I'm just going to go in with a paintbrush and kind of move any of the pigment around that I don't, that isn't spreading the way I want to. If you have any areas where your color is bleeding into other parts that you don't like I had with the blue and the like the pinkish purple color, you can just blot that up with a clean paper towel or cloth, whatever you have on hand. And that way it'll suck up that pigment and stop them from mixing. But like I said, with the colors, I tried to be aware of where I was putting them. I knew that the purple, teal, blue, pink, those would all mix well together. The blue and the yellow, also not a problem. It was really kind of the orange and the red I had to be concerned about. The yellow is super, super light. So I went back in and put down a little bit more pigment there. And then I like a messier look. You certainly do not have to do this. But since I do like it a little bit more messy, I like the little spatters in between. I'm going to put down each one of these colors on my craft mat here, just a little swipe of color, and then I'm going to spatter those on in that general area. I think it's super pretty when like the spatters get into other colors and they kind of mix together, because there's not enough water on here for it to really run together. So it just kind of leaves like one little dot that spreads maybe, but otherwise it's pretty concentrated, and I think that is pretty. If you don't, you can totally skip this step, no issue. But yeah, so I keep strange hours, and people think that it's weird. But I mean, if you think about it, most people who are in public service, law enforcement, fire, even service workers, nurses, like we all keep crazy hours because you're open 24/7. There isn't a day where you get to close. You work weekends, holidays, midnights, all of that. And I'm one of the anomalies because I love night shift. Most people spend their whole career trying to get off of night shift onto days. And I would go back to nights in a heartbeat if I could. It's just not something that's reasonable for me right now. Here, this had dried for the most part. I just want to make sure before I go in with the markers, which you can see I have a veritable cornucopia on the left-hand side there, that they were completely dry. I used the 3 markers that came in the sets typically. I do have two colors we'll talk about when we get to that I had to kind of mix. But for the most part, I used the 3 colors that came together. And then I just added a little bit of shading. Because I already have color down and because I'm on watercolor paper, sometimes I didn't have to go back over them. Sometimes they blended together just fine, no issues. But you can gauge that on your own card. Especially for like the darker purple up top, probably could just fill it in with one color and it wouldn't even be a thing. But I don't know. I've always added the shading, and sometimes I can't stop myself even when it's not necessary. But you could totally just one coat these with colors and not worry about it. For the pinkish purple color, I did not have a alcohol marker combination that matched this, so I'm going to do some color glazing. So I went in and colored it with the pink combination, and because I knew I needed a pink base. And then slowly I kind of started adding other colors. The lightest color for the Palma Violets was too light. The mid-tone was perfect. So that one I added a little bit of shading with that over the pink, and it helped it match pretty much perfectly. And then the other one will be the yellow when we get to the yellow. So as you know, just Eric and I have been working like crazy trying to save up to pay for this wedding. The other night we were crazy busy, so I didn't get home until late, which is how I ended up. This was the night before last. So I had a card that I had to do, but I just wasn't home. So for the yellow, I actually have 4 colors. which seems like a lot for this little bit of a space, but yellows are hard to get dimension. And in order to get any, I had to use a brown and kind of like a yellow orange. I did have to go over it a few times with the lighter yellow colors to get it to blend. Be careful when you're doing this, because the more alcohol ink you're putting down, the more at risk you are for bleeding. So just be really aware when you're going over it. Make sure you give it a little bit of time to dry in between coats if it looks like it's really going to bleed out. For the handles, I wanted to keep it super simple because I wanted these little pops of, watercolor to be the focal point. So I filled it in with a gray color, and then I just outlined the outermost edge with black. I could have got more contrast here. They are certainly big enough to do that, but I also knew how I wanted to do the highlight, that I wasn't going to be doing it with the markers, so it wasn't anything I was terribly concerned about. The metal portion of the, why can't I talk? The metal portion of the paintbrushes, that was literally the entire card is about paintbrushes, and I couldn't think of the word paintbrush. Like, if that's not early morning mom brain, I don't know what is. But anywho, the center portion of it is typically metal. I did not want to color the whole thing in like metal, and I could not do it with the markers because of the way that I did the watercolor. So what I decided to do, well, I forgot I did the shadow. That was my bad. We'll come back to the little metal things. So here I wanted to add a shadow so that it would have a little bit of dimension where an object would be touching the like table, counter, what have you. The shadow was going to be right up against it. Where it is raised above it, there it would be just slightly off. So I always do my shadows as if the light is in the top right hand corner. You can do it whichever way you're comfortable with, but you'll see instead of getting right up close to the paintbrush in the center, I'm leaving myself a little bit of a wider line. So it'll touch on the end, and it'll touch on the paintbrush portion, the actual brush. But the part in the center I am leaving so that it does not touch. I'm just drawing a straight line down from it, and that's going to help give the appearance of it being raised. I did like a mid-tone color, and then I went back in with a darker shadow just in the parts where it touched. I felt like it looked a little harsh, and I went back in with a light gray to blend it out. I kind of have regrets about doing this because in the final photos of the card, you can barely see the shadow in certain areas. So again, kind of play this by ear and see if that's something that you want to be more blended or more apparent. So back to these shiny things. So I'm going to fill in the center black. I'm not even going to try to pretend like I'm doing any shading. I just filled in the center black because I did not want to color the whole thing in metallic. The reason that I didn't want to do that is because of the outlining. So Nuvo has metallic a set that's like gold, copper, and silver. This is the silver. They are completely opaque, so they're going to cover anything that you put them over, which is why I'm not worried about the watercolor portion of it. But I didn't want the whole thing to be silver because it will also cover up my stamp lines, and I didn't want to do that. The outline marker that I use, the what is it? It's like a script pen, and that comes in a set too, is not dark enough. It's not a permanent. My dog's outside barking. Oh, Lord of mercy. I'm sure the neighbors love us. I mean, I'm sure honestly we're their favorite people. But anywho, so this marker won't cover up the metallic portion of it. Also, wait until after you add your glitter to do this, because this pen is not waterproof. I did not think about it beforehand, but I'm so glad I started with the red, because when I did it, I realized that the black was running. So I was just really very careful not to just smear it all around, and I didn't have any issues being that careful, but you could, like if you just go in there all willy-nilly, you could definitely smear it. So I would wait until after you add the glitter to do that. I'm just going to heat and buff the sentiment and then add some rhinestones, and then we're pretty much done. But anyway, so we got backed up. We both ended up staying at work quite late, and then it backed me up for my card. But this card is actually my last one for Tonic. I have loved my time with Tonic. They are a wonderful, generous company. I loved everybody on the team. But they have decided that they're going to do something different. And so they're not going to have a design team anymore. So yeah, I mean, it's been really nice. I love working with different companies, and I'm so glad that they reached out to me to give me the opportunity. And then we'll see where we go from here. I'll still obviously always be making videos because I work for a bunch of different people, but also just because I love card making, whether I work for anybody or not. So here I'm popping up the sentiment, and I kind of played around to see if there was somewhere else I wanted to put it. There wasn't. So I just put that down and popped that up. And then I'm going to add they're called the Pure Sheen Gemstones. These are just the clear ones. Because of my lighting, they all look like they're yellow in the photo if you're, looking at the blog. But when you can see in the video, like as I put them over individual colors, they just take on the color of what's below them. But because because of the lighting I had for the photos, which again is in the middle of the night makeshift photo lighting, they just all look like they're yellow, even though they're really just iridescent. But that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.